Welcome, everyone. And we are live. Welcome to another show, another podcast of the Cash Geeks Network. Are you sure we're live? We're live. Let's go. Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Um, I know we changed the time to the podcast, so we are a little bit earlier, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be the new time because, as you guys know, I have kids. So, I have a kid and another kid on the way. So now I have things to do later at night. So I got to do the podcast earlier, make the wife happy. But I'm super pumped for today because I think today's message and guest is going to be the most impactful in today's market than ever before. Um, I've been watching this guy on social media for a decent amount of time now. He probably doesn't know it, but I am super pumped to have my man Rafael on. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Yo, yo, yo.
Hey, what's up, man? What's up?
What's up, man?
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. So we're good. All right, zoom in. Boom. There we go. Now I can match
There
match
we
your
go.
size, bro.
Big head.
Awesome, man. So, dude, thank you so much for doing this. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm gonna ask a lot of questions. I do get very detailed in my questions. But with that being said, man, where are you at? Where are you based out of? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, man. First off, thanks for having me. It's always fun, man, to get into this, the Q&A portion of it. I'm out of Phoenix. I've been wholesaling for the last since 2009. I started doing fix and flips and wholesale and that sort of thing. I've had a couple of businesses in between. Or while I've been doing real estate as well. I now run a real estate brokerage as well. I coach a lot of real estate, and I do consulting for businesses in general when it comes to systems and processes and that sort of thing. So yeah,
Nice.
stay pretty active in the Phoenix, Arizona market.
So, out of all those ventures that you have, which one is your favorite?
Coaching, man.
Coaching.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's one of my favorite ones. It's just like there's a thing about having the responsibility of coaching that makes you hold space. So
Mm,
you have to have your stuff dialed in.
yeah.
And I mean, I'm telling you, man, if you're really in it and it resonates with you, you end up dialing your stuff because you have to have your shit together to be able to
Correct.
talk about it to students, right?
No,
So yeah,
absolutely.
by far it's coaching. Yeah.
That's awesome, man, and I definitely agree with that, man. Because when I remember just me starting to get into, like, personal branding and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and it forces you to kind of do some things that you wouldn't typically do because now you have to have all your ducks in a row, make sure that you're performing,
Yeah.
and, it holds you accountable. So,
100%. Yeah.
no, I love that.
100%.
That's awesome. So, break it down for me. What exactly is it that you help out investors with?
So a lot of people come to me for, I mean, I do coach, for example, a newer real estate, investor who's getting into the business and, teach them how to get to the, to their first deal and kind of, grow from there. Right. So my process, goes along those lines. Where I feel like my bread and butter is sitting down on one-on-one coaching calls or trainings with people who are already doing deals, but they need to systemize, they need to automate. They're kind of trapped in the box of the doingness of everything. You know what I mean? So the crazy thing about it, man, is like we know a lot of people don't know how to make money in real estate. They know how to wholesale and everything, but they don't know how to build the business that supports that, so that when they walk away, the thing is still humming. And
Right.
that's where I come in. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And so, like, what are you seeing is the biggest challenge for these individuals? I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are the kind of individuals. I might be one of those individuals sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Um, that you know how to make money wholesaling. Um, you know everything about the industry, but it's hard to get to that next level, right? Like, what are you seeing is that commonality of like
There,
investors that's presented from turning this into a business?
There's two things, and not that I want to get all woo woo and straight into the whole mindset portion of it, but I think that's 80% of the battle that we go through, right? Like, so this is a crazy thing about getting to a place where you hit a wall. Usually when we start off, and this was my case, right? I mean, I bootstrapped the entire thing. I kind of went through, the ropes of going through the trench work and making the time count and all that stuff. So I went through it, and I mean, tenacity was unmatched. Like, nobody's going to outwork me. And I had that, that mentality, right? Because I was in survival mode. So the crazy thing about it is that consistency is not even an issue when you're trying to survive. Why? Because you're trying to survive, right? You're trying to pay the rent. You're trying to, do whatever you need to do. You make the car payment, buy groceries, grow a family as we're going through. So there's stuff that's, kind of like, it's pushing you towards that goal. Now, what happens when we get out of that survival mode is okay, we make some cash, we close a few deals, and we have this standard of living that now it's covered, right? So I see it all the time where people get, 3 or 4, good paychecks, 50Kers, 100Kers, and now it's more money than we're used to on a regular basis. So that survival mode instinct, that bite, just starts to dim down little by little.
They get lazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think conformity sets in. Now the thing about that is that it doesn't last, right? Because you don't have something that's sustainable yet.
Right.
So you have spikes, and then you see that you see that conformity come in, and then really just kind of mess up the flow of things and the consistency of things. That's one case scenario. The other one is you get to a point where you're knocking out deals and you have this innate need for control, and you have a big fear of loss for the stuff that you've built, right? Like, no, I have the consistency, I have the tenacity, but if I don't do it myself, it's gonna be wrong. So you hold yourself back from delegating and actually building the processes, the systems, and all the stuff that's not sexy, man. But it's like that's the when we're talking about entrepreneurship and freedom, like that's really what it takes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a ton of stuff to unwrap there, but the biggest, at the end of the day, the biggest challenge, to answer your question, is going to be ourselves. We get to this point where the stuff that we were doing before is not gonna propel us to that next level, and it's just requiring another version of ourselves.
Yeah, that's I'm happy we're going in this direction, because a lot of people question, my success on how I got to where I'm at in a certain age range or whatever. And when I tell people that it's because I went to Tony Robbins when I was 19, that, they like, people can't comprehend that, right?
Did you make your move?
I made my move. I walked on fire. So I've been to Tony
Brother.
Robbins twice, and I've crewed once.
Game changer.
Yeah. And so things like that is really why I am where I am, right? It's really why I look at challenge the way that I look at it, the way that I embrace opportunity or push myself, or, make your move, and really you think anything is possible, and it really is, right? But to some people that's too rah and too, like, for a lot of people that's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And some people are just born with it or grow up with it, and so they don't have to go through those, breakdown of your limiting beliefs. But for people who didn't grow up with that, and when I say grow up with it, it's just like some people don't have limiting beliefs, right? They grow up being told, hey, you can do whatever you want, and I will support you in all areas of life, and you're going to be successful, and blah 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 blah. Some people aren't always blessed with that, and or it gets them to a certain level, but like you're saying, you hit a wall, right?
Yeah.
Getting to that next level is, for me, it's Tony Robbins, man, and or just something in that realm, right? Personal development, Jim Rohn, right? Whatever it is, just it really improving yourself, versus just like, what's the next, what's the best thing I can say on my script, and what's the the best marketing channel. don't get me wrong, those things are very important, right? But to break that wall, it's not going to be a marketing channel that breaks the wall. It's not going to be um, a script that you do, or a new unique postcard, or a new text program, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's really not going to break the wall, or break the ceiling that you're reaching. So let's
That's
talk about that a little bit.
that's 100% true, man. It's the crazy thing about it, right? Like everything is what we do in business, the stuff that we pay for when we go to coaching. Oh, I want this person to teach me how to, wholesale. I want this
Right,
person to teach me how to build a business. It's all nuts and bolts.
right,
It's all nuts and bolts. Like it's all. I mean, we have frameworks. Like for example, for like everything I do in terms of consulting and all that stuff, there's frameworks in place that you can take from one, vertical to the other one and whatnot, right? At the end of the day, like you can have the best systems, you can have the best team, you can
right,
have the resources and the money and everything available and ready for you. But if you're not right up here, if you're not right, if your mindset is not dialed in, and dialed in is the wrong term, but if your mindset is not conducive for growth,
yeah,
you are going to hit a wall. Why? Because
right,
self-doubt is going to kill everything around you. The crazy thing is that we can't turn it off. Self-doubt
right,
always happens. Like we'll see people crushing it and just killing it out there, and it's like, man, this person is full of confidence, man, this person is thriving, man, this person is doing this, doing that. Man, I wish I could do that. I mean, it's for them, it's not for me. And all these thoughts, right, all this negative thinking just kind of starts to layer up. But the reality is that, like, yeah, there's gonna be a time factor. People have just been in the game for 10 years longer than you have, so it's gonna
right,
be a default,
yep,
right? The second one is like, yeah, somebody may have their talent in this one particular lane, but it doesn't mean that you can't crush it in your lane, right?
right,
So I feel like a lot of that stuff, a lot of those conversations really happen because they're not they're unaware conversations that are going on. So meaning that we don't sit down with ourselves and really pencil out, okay, what do I want my life to be, right? What do I want to be, really really killing myself for the next 10 years, or do I want to build a business that just gets to this X spot and that's where I find joy?
right,
Or do I want to blow everybody out of the water? Like it's two very different missions,
yep,
right? And I feel like just kind of going with the waves of everything around us is going to get us to a point that can be sometimes very dangerous. We'll find ourselves competing for something that we don't even want. We'll find
yes.
ourselves feeling bad about stuff that we don't even care about. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I don't have that.
Exactly
That
what you
person
mean.
does this. I don't give two shits about them. I don't know if I can, cuss or whatever, but it's
Oh, dude, you're good. You're
yeah,
good here.
you know,
No
it's
worries.
it's for stuff that doesn't really matter to our own
Yep,
personal vision. And the crazy thing is that we can dedicate that time to grow that personal vision, to figure out what we want as individuals, and then drive that through, right? As opposed
right,
to just taking everything that we're seeing. I mean, we see highlights on social media from everybody,
yep,
and that can be noise. Noise is dangerous, right? Especially when you're trying to focus in as an entrepreneur and pick your lane. So
yeah.
yeah, all that stuff is gonna get in the way unless you have clarity over your direction. So
So so what does it mean to be, I guess, an organizational psychologist?
so basically, it's putting people and systems together. So you have to go through
Okay,
general psychology to kind of do, and then I specialized in business psychology. So that's what it comes down to. Understanding people and processes and how each one kind of fits into each other. I mean, you have certain roles, right? You've probably heard about all the personality assessments, DISC.
right,
Yeah.
yep,
So the cool thing about it is, or the crazy thing is, that all those things are out there, and a lot of companies deploy them, right? They'll put them into their SOPs and whatnot, but they don't take the context, the actual information to build communication channels with their team, to figure
mm,
out where somebody fits best, right, for what role, and how to support them based on their behavioral strengths. So organizational psychology plays a lot into that space, and then of course productivity and efficiency in the systems and processes. So it's taking both angles, the nuts and bolts of the business, and then the behavioral strengths of the team, and putting all that stuff together.
yeah. Oh, that makes sense, that makes sense. So what are some of the, I guess, I want to get into some nuggets. What
Come
are
on,
what
come
are
on. I
the
don't hold back.
what are some of the most important things that business owners need to have in place when it comes to systems and people?
It it depends. It's a timely thing. So for example, right? If you're just getting started in business, what you're gonna need is very different than somebody who's been in the business for 5 years.
Got it.
It's very different. You know, I feel like the old way of doing of starting or launching was, you know, to kind of check the boxes off of a business plan, and then theorize and do a lot of projections and that sort of thing, right? That's kind of like the first exposure that I had to business development. I was still working at the fire department back then, and I was trying to launch my first business. And I went to the SBA, and they gave me a checklist of stuff that I needed to do, right? So I don't know, I spent like 6 months crafting this thing, and I didn't need any of it. Like what what I needed was maybe three or four things out of that whole stack,
Yeah.
and then the tenacity to go after it, because I
Right.
sat there planning and just theorizing about projections and numbers and all kinds of stuff for a long time, when I was missing opportunities to actually go in there and deploy. So if you're saying, like, for example, depending on what stage of the business you're in, your needs are gonna be different. I'll give you stage one business. Somebody's launching up, you know, it's bootstrap. It's you know, they're rolling into the market. It doesn't matter if it's wholesale. I did the same thing with my real estate brokerage. So there's certain things that you're gonna line up as priorities, right? So your first priority as a startup business is going to be profit. It doesn't, like, it's not, and this is the argument that we get all the time. It's like, it's not following my purpose. I don't care about purpose right now. We care about profit. If you can't keep the lights on, your purpose is not going to flourish. Okay,
Correct.
so you have to focus on profit.
Yep.
The next thing, it's going to be systems. So profit, process. Then the third thing is people. The reason it's in that sequence is because, again, if you don't have profits, you can't keep the lights on. You're just launching a business as a new entrepreneur, so your processes are not dialed in, right?
Right.
So if you start hiring
Yep.
and plugging people into it, the accountability factors are not in place, and I mean, it just gets messy. So that's why people come in third. Not that we don't care about people. But, like, for example, that's a priority in a level one business. If you're talking to a level four business, the everything changes because you've developed your business along the way. So now your priority is going to be people. We're looking for talent that comes in and works the process, which is going to be lined up in second tier, and then the third priority is going to be profits. Why? Because you have an engine now that's already pumping,
Mm,
revenue. So it changes, right, as we're going
right.
through it. When you're talking about nuts and bolts, but I mean, if you want to bring it back to like chapter one, man, like it's almost heartbreaking to see how many people give up while
Yeah.
they're going through the process before they even test the waters. Like,
Right.
it's, yeah, the tenacity is just, it can be brittle sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I would venture to believe that a lot of the people listening are probably going to be in like stage 3 maybe, and I don't know what your stages are, right? But
yeah,
I'm thinking of stage 4 of people are first, and I would venture to believe people listening are probably gonna be on, like, stage 2 and 3,
okay.
right? Some stage 4. Um, so with that being said, what are you seeing right now, right? Because right now, I'm sure you're experiencing people who maybe were doing better, a year ago than they are now, or maybe not. I don't know, right? But I seem to see a trend of you know a year ago we were all crushing it, and now some of us are crushing it, right? And some of us are still doing decent, right? And so, like, mindset wise, for somebody who has been in the industry for 5 years plus, couple years, maybe they got started in 2018, 2019, and then now things aren't really the same, or maybe they have to refigure things out. Like, are you working with people like that are currently going through stuff like that? And then, like, what are you seeing that's working for them or helping them out?
Yeah, I do. I mean, like I said, I work with all tiers. It depends. Like the coaching programs are different for each level. But the what I'm seeing right now, I mean, a lot of people just kind of fell off the wagon, right? If you started after 2018, let me just first, unpopular opinion, but put this out there. You haven't seen the ups and downs. You've
Right.
seen the ups in 2020 when prices got
Correct.
tight, inventory got low.
Yep.
So we could, just negotiate anything, slap it on the MLS or put it out to a buyer's list, and people would just fight for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we're living dog years right now when it comes to real estate.
Yep.
I mean, that might as well be, a decade and a half ago. So,
Yes.
um, what I'm seeing right now, one of the things that I like, one of my mantras is hustle is a season. It's not a business strategy, right?
Hustling is a season.
Hustle is a season. It's not
Mm.
a business strategy. It's not sustainable. It's a behavioral tool that we need to go back to, every now and then, because yeah, we're gonna have to hustle through certain things, right? But as we're going through that process, we have to systemize. We have to switch our thinking from hustler to entrepreneur, right? Start delegating, start automating stuff.
Right.
The reason you don't see people crushing it like we used to is because that hustle factor is not as effective as it was.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, for example, there's only so much you can hustle to hit a certain amount of volume, right?
Yep.
But if you have systems in place, you can empower people around you, and your volume that you're able to hit is going to grow exponentially. So you're just
Right.
able to hit, for example, I don't know, more marketing campaigns,
Yeah.
negotiate more deals. Why? Because you have more acquisitions people. So that the a lot of the stuff in our industry, I mean, we see it all the time. We have a lot of solopreneurs or people operating with one or two people, and the VA, and I close the deals and I display the deals and do everything, right? The thing is that all that stuff got harder.
Yep.
We see it in attrition, right? We see it in attrition level when we're looking at the deals that, what's your closing ratio on deals under contract versus deals sold. So there is an attrition percentage there. Like we see that, drop. It's
Right.
not the same as it used to be a couple of years ago, right?
Yep. Yep.
Ours dropped. And like I can see in every single one of my students, we're doing stuff to mitigate that kind of stuff, but they definitely dropped.
Right.
So it's that, man. Like it's really, when we talk about the entrepreneur mentality, it's not just about the setting up the automations, the follow-ups, and then onboarding people and training them. It's not just that. It's about that inner story that's happening. So
Right.
as business owners, man, we have to look at the nuts and bolts of everything that's going on. More importantly, we have to stay aware of where we are at, right?
Mm.
If we don't bring the motivation, if we don't bring the like the energy into those conversations and empower the team, none of the rest none of the rest matters. And then what
Right.
happens, what's happened over the last couple of years is that difficulty levels, I mean, they just keep increasing. Is deals get tighter, policy
Yep.
gets tighter. Anybody
Yeah.
who's doing cold calling or SMS can tell you that much.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? The efficiency of the leads and marketing budgets, like it just gets tighter, and
Yeah.
the heat gets hotter. So that's what's happening. But it's not just a matter of moving processes and systems around. I think it's a matter of just understanding where you're at as an entrepreneur and what kind of battle like do you want to go to.
Right.
So
Right. And so, like, how are you helping people navigate through these times, through that challenge?
so I mean, we have this is the crazy thing, right? A lot of people come to me because of the again, the systems and the processes and the model and the step one, step two. I have a very pragmatic way of looking at business,
Okay.
which gets rid of the emotional part, right? Now that's kind of like I said, it's the hook to get people into the space. But at the end of the day, we end up working a lot on the mindset portion of it,
Right.
on the endurance, right? We have to build up that like endurance muscle.
Right.
And the people who are batting, like they're doing well, it's because they actually stick with it. They give it enough time. They follow the process. More importantly, they work on themselves. I'm an avid reader. I'm always looking at uh, just new ways to expand the mindset, right? Stay open. And one thing, man, that I do on a regular basis, and it's almost I mean, I think my entire student base does it as well at this point. But we're big on top threes. So I call them top threes. we roll that into the business, but basically it's your top 3 personal priorities. So as we're going through like our weekly operation meetings and everything, we cover what are top 3 personal priorities. They have nothing to do with the business. And one of the things that it does is it just refreshes our mind on a weekly basis about what we're about. Like, why are we going through all these, pains and struggles of growth and opening up new marketing, strategies. And like, at the end of the day, we want to live, right? Like, that's the entire thing. So I feel like empowerment comes in, and yes, it comes in the coaching factor, right? I show people how to lead generate. I show people how to, negotiate deals, structure them, acquisitions, how to dispositions. We have this elaborate dispo process. All of that stuff it's a map. I mean, you can buy a map at a store, right? The map is going to be different. It's going to be, whatever, right? But it's nuts and bolts. The soft skills, I think, is the biggest portion of it, and the biggest common denominator to success. Like, how well do we cope with working on ourselves, right? Leaving that ego aside, understanding that we don't know it all, and we can dive into things with an open mind, and be trainable, be coachable. I'm coachable.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, absolutely. And so what are some of the books that you like reading right now, or maybe something that you've read recently?
One of my top, I feel like all-time top books is going to be Psycho-Cybernetics.
Psycho-Cybernetics.
Yeah, by Maxwell Maltz. It's a really good book. It's got nothing to do with real estate. It's actually a surgeon that wrote the book, but it's a book about psychology. So think about practical psychology, like the self-image plays into it. But he has a very, very easy way of breaking down how to reframe your self-image. And at the end of the day, it's not, I mean, it's, and I'm not just, I'm not talking about, okay, like how I look in the mirror, right? It's about how we see ourselves in terms of belief, in terms of, sense of worthiness and ambition and all that stuff. So it's a really good book. It's gotta be one of my top 3 books.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't read that one, so I definitely need to look into that one.
No, it's a solid read.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So tactical
Real
stuff.
Estate King says good stuff. Thanks, man.
So tactical stuff on conversion rates of deals. Right? Yeah. So you talk about that's something that you guys track a lot, right? So what are some of the KPIs that you kind of look for? I'm sure as a business coach, you probably have certain things that you can like, hey, tell me these 10 things and I'll tell you everything about your business, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, what are those things that you look at as a coach to break down someone's business?
So, I mean, I have this whole elaborate scorecard that we plug stuff into on a regular basis. It really becomes the backbone of an operation. But I can give you like some of the most important ones. For example, in lead generation, right? We can get super granular. Like, man, I want to track this. I want to track that. There's first off, let's understand that there's a big difference between KPIs, key performance indicators, and then navigators. Navigators are the rest of the metrics. It's everything that's not necessarily going to move the needle right now, right? It may have an impact in a month, 2 months, 3 months, but key performance indicators or KPIs, they move the needle now. So it's about understanding like some of the biggest things. For example, if my we call it the locked to sold ratio, right? Deals locked versus deals sold. If that ratio improves, right, it moves the needle now. That's, it's a KPI. It's one of the things that we look at on the dispo side.
Got it.
And then there's things like, for example, that will, cost per click. That's a navigator. It's not necessarily a KPI. Right. It's a navigator. Like it's gonna correlate eventually, right? But it's not something that if we improve it right now, it's gonna give me more deals to close. It's just cost per click. Right. So it's important to understand those two things. What I've seen is a lot of people just go into the weeds of tracking everything, and then the entire operation becomes this big giant scorecard, and focused on the KPIs, the tracking, the numbers, and all that stuff, as opposed to actually getting signatures on deals and getting them sold. Right. So be mindful of that. That's one of the biggest things. I can tell you like just off the top of my head, the stuff that we're tracking, for example, on lead generation campaigns, right? My lead gen metrics. Those are some of the ones that we stay on, like hawks, because if lead gen doesn't move, nothing else works,
Right.
right? Also, don't make the mistake of slowing down. I know we're going into mid-November, December, and it's the holidays, and I'm gonna stop marketing because it's Christmas. Like, no, people go into trouble in Christmas too.
Absolutely.
So
Me and my business partner always say the deal that you get right now during Christmas typically are always the best deals.
oh, 1,000%, man. We usually get that. Yeah, the biggest deals. There's also people strategizing for tax, purposes for next year, right? Now,
Yep.
the stuff that you lock up in late November, December, it's gonna be opening up your next year. So you're not even gonna see that revenue right now. You're gonna see it. Do you want to have money in January? Okay, then
Yeah.
continue on what you're doing.
Correct. Correct.
So yeah, let me just put that out there, because a lot of people just kind of get their foot off the gas when it comes to the holidays. Don't just keep it consistent. Now, the stuff that we're tracking, we track controlled reach. That's the first metric when it comes to lead generation, and we have different campaigns, right? So we do control. I'll just go
What do
over
you
the
mean
cold
by
calling.
controlled reach? Sorry, just
So when you drop a list into a power dialer, for example, right? That power dialer is going to cycle through a certain amount of numbers. So how many numbers do we actually hit today, right? That's a controlled reach. It's a number that we can control. The next thing that we're going to see is going to be contacts.
Yep.
So how many people actually, how many contacts, not conversations, but contacts, how many contacts did we have? Did we actually, leave a voicemail? Or did we, some type of contact, somebody answered, maybe hung up or whatever, right?
wrong number.
Yeah, exactly. It's just contacts. So that's to check for example, the quality of the data. Like, that's going to give us a story in between those two. And then we track conversations, how many conversations lasted. And we have it more than a minute and a half. How many conversations actually lasted? More for us in terms of tracking the quality, right? So if they answer and they say no, leave me the hell alone, like, it's not a conversation. So
Right.
so again, this is gauging now the quality of the list. So depending on the avatar that we're hitting, what kind of list are we pulling, what kind of filters are we throwing into that list, that tells us a story, right?
Right.
And then of course we track leads, and at the cold caller level, the leads are just people who are, they're interested. They just, okay, cool, so let's talk about an offer.
Right.
So we're not going through a pre-qualification process. We're not, going into this discovery call or anything like that. We're just plowing through records, right?
Yeah.
So leads. Now, when you move that over and a lead happens, it goes over to my lead manager, right? So they automatically drop it into a form, goes into my Podio setup, and everybody gets notified. And then my lead manager calls that person, and they'll go into this pre-qualifying conversation. I have it broken down in cold callers and lead managers, because the training is different. Like the behavioral strengths that you're going to need from a lead manager are very different than something that you're going to need from an acquisitions rep, for example, right? And when they're going into that pre-qualifying conversation, there's some critical criteria that they hit along the way, and they dequalify people.
Right.
So yeah, somebody makes it over through that conversation and they qualify them. Now they push it over to acquisitions, right? So now we're tracking the leads and how many got converted to prospects. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So leads and prospects, and then of course we track how much money did we spend on that campaign.
Got
So now we're looking at, cost per lead, cost per prospect. After it closes, we're looking at cost per deal on any given particular campaign. And it becomes, it's not a difficult process, man. Once you have it all set up and it's all linear, we literally jump on calls where my team uploads their KPIs, and we go over them in a 45-minute meeting. And you kind of like, it's a state of the union meeting, right? Like, we go in there, bring in the cold callers, we just kind of, issues processing and all that stuff. So we do that once a week. And then during the week, we'll touch base with huddles. So we do a morning huddle every single morning, and touch base on how are we doing? What's going on? Do you need help with any deals? Like that sort of thing. But yeah, the KPIs themselves, Those are transferable too, like because you can think about the same stuff on a PPC campaign. It's gonna be named different. It's gonna be named cost per click instead of leads.
Yep.
It's gonna be, you know what I mean. So, but the essence of the KPI is still the same thing. Then we do that for SMS as well. Another thing that we track for text messaging is deliverability, which is kind of like the contacts. So the cool thing about it is that you'll see trends, you'll see tendencies. So as we go and we have this elaborate every week, we just kind of stack the KPIs, and I like going back to it and looking at trends. Like, oh, like these 2 weeks were low. What happened? Did we hit a different list? Was there something going on with interest rates? Was there, what was it? What was the story behind those numbers? Right. So that's really what KPIs do. It's not just about tracking everything. It's about being able to identify what the story of the numbers is telling us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah. So for most of your clients, do they have cold call and lead managers virtual?
Yeah.
And then acquisitions in-house, or is acquisitions also virtual?
No, in-house. Well, mine is virtual technically. He's in Yuma, but he's in the States. So my cold callers are Filipino cold callers. My lead manager, Filipino lead manager, she's been with me since 2017, 18, I think.
Wow.
So she started as a cold caller and then moved over to lead management. So she's actually running my team. Real Estate King is asking how old am I? 40. So
damn, you're 40?
yeah.
Man, I hope I look like you when I'm 40. That's awesome,
Thank you.
man. Hell yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, to answer your question, it's so we have a mix of VAs that run a big portion of the business, keep the cost low and everything. We give them spiffs with bonuses and after closings and that sort of thing.
Got it.
And yeah, my acquisitions team and dispo team is we have. So let me break it down. So I have cold callers. I have a lead manager who's also in the Philippines. Acquisitions is in the States. My dispo manager is in the States. He's actually sitting there in the office.
Nice.
And then I have a dispo marketing manager. She's a Filipino VA as well. She crushes. She goes through the entire process that we built out.
Got it.
And yeah, I mean, so that's essentially it. When you have it laid out like that, and volume starts to go up, you can plug people into those same tiers. Right. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And so what have you done on your dispo side? I know you mentioned you have a very robust dispo process, right? So
yeah, our dispo process it's a 21-day dispo process. So
21-day dispo.
Yeah, like every single day something happens. When we have a deal that we need to push, every single day something happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So from day one, a deal comes into the whiteboard, right? So we have a bunch of automations just set up. You click a button, get a contract, comes back signed. When it comes back signed automatically, Dispo gets notified. It pushes over to the Dispo marketing rep. So she starts working on the website, on the page. Yeah, exactly. So at this point, we're opening escrow with transaction coordination, and then the marketing is also firing up. So day one, I think we have a set of about seven things that happen on day one. Boom, 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 boom. And then we hit, one thing that I did was we had the general list, right? The big list of the buyers, the cash buyers. And then we, like everybody else, we had a VIP list. Okay. And then as the years kind of went by, we were building relationships. So we're just closer relationships with a few people, with a handful of people.
Yep.
And so, I couldn't call it the VIP list because that name was already taken. So I called it the A list, right? So I have an A list, a VIP list, and then my general list.
Got it.
And the general list, it's 50,000 people emails on it at this point. Right. VIP is a lot smaller. We have, maybe 2,000, 2,500 people in there. Yep. And then the A list, it's actually people who we call, pick up the phone and we'll send them a text message with the property link and everything. And we'll pick up the phone and call them.
Got it.
That's a very, much smaller number. So we're always working on those lists, cleaning them up. People make it into the A list. People make it out of the A list depending on how active they are and that sort of thing. So that's helped us keep a really good, really good pulse on what's going on, what people are buying, like who's active. No pun intended. actually pun intended, but but it's you know what I mean,
Yeah.
as like I feel like now it's more important than ever to be proactive on the dispo side. So you
Agreed.
have to be a salesperson on the disposition side. It didn't
Yeah.
used to be that way.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I got started back in 2015, and I was working for a wholesale company. That's how I got started.
Nice.
And my job was dispo. And dispo in 2015, 2016, and 2017 was a
Nice.
lot different than how it was 2018, 2019, and then even more different than 2020, 2021, and all that.
For
Um,
sure.
and right now it's feeling like it's feeling like 2017 vibes, right? Like 2015, 2016, it was harder to dispo because there just wasn't that many people getting into the space, right?
Yeah.
After like 2016, 2017, by the time it was like 2018, dispoing got a little bit easier because everybody wanted to buy real estate, right?
Yeah.
Everybody was a flipper, everybody was a landlord, everybody wanted to, whatever, right? So the buyer pool, I think, opened up
It got
more,
sexy. Real estate
right?
got sexy.
Right. Real estate got sexy. So now wholesale was like, oh, well, these people are buying more. And then 2020 came and it was just like everybody can buy anything.
Yeah.
After COVID, obviously. And then, and then don't even get me started on freaking hedge funds, right? Like then the
No
hedge
way.
funds came like right after COVID. Um, and then now it's just like, well, shit, now I have to actually work at Dispo, right?
Yeah.
And luckily I have the benefit of, I was around back then. But I have seen the whole dispo wave, right, kind of evolve, and you're absolutely spot on, right? Like you have to be proactive on the dispo side right now. Um,
Yeah, if you're not in a relationship building mode, like man, it's gonna be tough.
yeah,
That's all,
yeah,
that's what I can say for sure. I kind of got started the same way, man. Back in 2000, so I had another business and I sold the business. Had nothing to do with real estate. It was a medical transportation business, and I sold that. And I wanted to get into. I'd done a few flips, and I'd done kind of tested the waters a little bit. And Sean Terry puts out an email broadcast, like he's looking for an acquisitions guy, and he's in my backyard.
yeah, dude, you're in the freaking best market for
Yeah,
if you're gonna work for someone in real estate in the beginning, move to Phoenix because you have a
yeah.
lot of
Throw
options
throw
there.
a rock and you're gonna hit a
Yeah,
guru, man. Like,
correct. That's awesome.
That's the I call it the Sean Terry effect, but so he had a lot of his seminars here in town,
Yeah.
like the Flip to Freedom seminars, and I don't know if you ever followed his stuff or whatnot.
Absolutely,
Stand-up
bro.
guy,
That was the only people teaching in
OG,
2015.
OG man.
Clothier,
So
Sean Terry, yeah.
I started working with him. My idea was, because I already sold the business, right? And it's like, my idea was to be there for about a year and kind of, understand it, get a paid internship, type of deal. So I sit down with them. It's like, yeah, I'm going to give you all I got for at least a year. That's what that was very transparent at the beginning. And I ended up staying, running acquisitions there for 3 years, just under 3 years. But man, it was like
That's awesome.
trial by fire, dude. Like,
Yeah,
talk
dude.
about sitting in front of sellers and cutting the learning curve, and like just the amount of exposure I was getting and the amount of
Absolutely.
reps I was able to put in. I mean,
Yes.
that alone, dude, it's like you have to put in the reps.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been pretty interesting to see it from what it was back then, where I mean, just really, like almost, head to head combat right there with
Yeah.
with the
No, that's
sellers,
awesome, man.
and
That's awesome. How was that, man, working with Sean Terry, dude? Because
oh,
yeah,
dude,
literally like flip to freedom, man. So it's funny because the reason why I ended up in the market that I'm at is because, and shout out to Pete Cook if you're ever watching this, man. So I went to work for an investor, and I wanted to work for free to learn. So I was going to like meetups, right? I was
yeah,
18 years old. I go to a meetup. I meet this guy, and it was a GoBundance mastermind event. I was there working for free because I just wanted to be there. And one of the guys that I meet, there's this guy named Pete, and he's kind of like the only one that knows about wholesaling, right? Because 2015 wholesaling was, it was more of like being a realtor and flipping houses, right?
yeah, it wasn't.
2015, like wholesaling was kind of becoming a thing more and more. Um,
Yeah.
and he was like, dude, look up Sean Terry. And the reason why I went to work for him, bro, is because he had just bought Flip to Freedom, the program,
Yeah.
and he didn't have the time. He was like a real estate broker, right? Had a successful brokerage and all this, and flipped houses. He was like, bro, I just bought this program, and I was like, dude, I can't afford to buy that program, but I'll do it all for free, and you just make all the money. And he was like, done. And that's how I got started,
Check.
basically. Yeah, and it was because he had the Sean Terry program. We were sending out the post, all that, man. So how was it working with Sean Terry, man?
It was fun, man. I got to see a lot of different aspects of it. That's actually when I started playing with like the scorecards and kind of I got to play with his business a lot with
Yeah,
in terms of like the systems and the processes
right,
and
right.
building some of the back end structure of it. I was already at that point. I had a bachelor's in business, and I was working on my first master's degree in psychology. So I didn't have the
Oh,
business
wow.
psychology degree yet, but I was in that lane, right? So I was curious about everything. So I would see something, at school, and I would go and deploy it the next day, because at that
Oh,
point
that's awesome.
I had sold my
Hell
business. So I was like, all right, cool. Let's do this for, I don't know, culture. Let's
yeah,
do
yeah.
this for scorecards. Let's try this on, and then a lot of it would transfer into the actual like negotiation of the. I
That's
was like,
awesome, man.
yeah, sign me up.
Yeah,
So I did that, and I was trying to get the presentation vetted, and I was like, no, he goes, you're good, I trust you, like, just
yeah,
go.
yeah.
So he
That's
just
awesome.
allowed me to do my thing. I mean, it was really cool, just the fact that I was in front of the
Yeah.
entire thing as it was happening. So a lot of the guys that are doing big stuff now, like they went to 2014, 15, 16 Flip
Yeah,
to Freedom events.
absolutely,
Yeah,
man. I
so
mean,
it's
that's where a lot of really it came down to, like, the only, like, real person to learn this from for a certain time was Sean Terry.
yeah,
Like, that was, like, it, you know?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, for
so
sure.
a lot
No,
of
he's a
people
great dude.
credit
He's a
a
great
lot of
dude.
people credit all their success to those guys because they were really the only people there teaching it.
Yeah, that's what's so incredible, man, about planting a seed, right? You plant
Yeah,
a seed of growth in somebody, and it just, like, for example, take yourself as an example. Like, that's all you needed. You needed a little boost, and then
correct.
fast forward,
Yep.
like, you're crushing it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
empowering people. You're pushing the message. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
you're
that's
doing the
awesome.
thing.
So what does it look like to work with you? How can people learn more about you? Um, follow you?
I'm pretty active on social media. You can find me at Rafael Cortez CEO on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I drop a lot of content on a weekly basis. I have a podcast, the CEO Post podcast. It's about entrepreneurship, the real Duran, the mind of entrepreneurship. I have another podcast, which is the REI Wholesaling podcast, and that's all about real estate wholesaling. And then within the CEO Pulse podcast, I have a Mindset Monday series where we just break down, the psychology of entrepreneurship. So you can follow me there.
Oh, that's
And then,
awesome.
I mean, I drop a lot of stuff on business development. It's a lot of content, but it's a pretty fun channel. I love doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty active on social. So DM me, shoot me a message.
Dude, the way you say
Yeah.
your name is epic. I need to start saying my name like that, man. I'm slacking. I say it the gringo way. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Gonzalo Corzo." Yeah,
Gonzalo,
yeah. "Hey, I'm Gonzalo Corzo." Oh, shit.
Gonzalo.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Where are you from,
Rafael.
man?
Mexico. Well, so I
Mexico.
mean, I was born in the States. I was born in Yuma,
Okay,
which is about 3 hours south of Phoenix.
got it.
But I grew up in a border town.
Oh,
So I
nice.
didn't start going to school in the States until fourth grade.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, yeah, but my entire family is border town or
Yep.
Mexico side. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
I'm Peruvian. I'm from Peru.
Peruvian.
Yeah, yeah.
Dope.
That's
Dope,
awesome, man.
dope, dope.
Well, dude, thank you so much for doing this. I know you've been an open book. I definitely want to have you back on because I do feel like I jotted down a bunch of shit and I feel like we barely even talked about all the stuff that you know. Um,
I'd be
and
happy to, man.
I wanna, potentially have you back on if you're okay with it. Um, but I do love your message and I really do appreciate you doing this, preaching to my audience and hopefully something comes from this, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome.
Um, Before signing off, can I answer a question? Real Estate King has
Yeah.
been dropping a few things on YouTube, but he's can you all share what main systems you use? So I use launch control for text messaging. I use batch leads for pulling data. I use Podio as a CRM. I have a build out, and then I use a Ready Mode as a power dialer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Nice. Kind of in a way similar. I use PropStream for data. I use Cold Tools as a dialer. I use Podio for my CRM and smartphone as my
Yep.
phone system within Podio.
Yep.
And I use Google Drive. Google Drive for me is everything, man. So we use
Hell
kind of like Google Drive in hand with Podio for once a deal becomes goes under contract. Then we use Google Drive for a lot of like the file storage, pictures, and stuff like that. We don't really put all that into Podio.
Mm.
And then I use click to send, or click send
For emails,
for text blasting
texting. Oh yeah.
for the buyer side. So
Yeah.
that integrates with Podio. So we do all of our text blasting from Podio. And that's it, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
happy you
Thanks
saw
for
that question. I only have Facebook up, so I didn't see the questions on YouTube.
yeah, no,
Perfect.
the only ones I can see are the YouTube ones.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Real Estate King, man. Thanks for asking some great questions throughout the show. And for everybody who tuned in, thank you so much for joining us. If you're rewatching this, or maybe you tuned in later, make sure you rewatch all of it. It's going to be on my YouTube channel, the Cash Geeks Network, or on my Facebook, Rafael Cortez. Thank you so much again for doing this. And I will see you guys next week, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.